Okay, episode number 41 in Creative Love Radio. Hi, Dr. Rob. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you.
I'm excited for today because we're talking about the two minds. Everyone thought they had one mind.
But you get two for the price of one.
Actually, you have two.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about what those are, the two minds, how they work, and how they create your life. Or
don't work sometimes.
Or don't work. Well, they always work. It's just how to get in control of them and get the things you want in life, whether you want love, whether you want more success, more money, find your purpose, more health.
Find your mind.
Find your mind. Feel peaceful, feel happy. What a concept, right? So the two minds, what are they? And how can we find them?
Right. You know, there's a thread weaving throughout history, and if you look at literature and mythology, there's always this duality, this tension between the conscious and the unconscious, the ego and the true self. And this tension is really what drives the human mind. We can think of the ego mind as the limited mind, the one that helps us survive and conditions us to the environment and helps us adapt, essentially, to fit in. As social beings, we want to fit into our groups. And the higher mind, you know, the
wisdom mind.
Yeah, the wisdom mind, which is a great name for it because it is the source of wisdom and creativity and potential and all that good stuff that people talk about. That's the other end of the spectrum.
And we have access to both of these minds consciously. But if you think about it, what most people experience is just their ego mind. You hear your thoughts, you identify with yourself, you see the senses, your senses pick up the room, and you look at your life and the people in your life and the events that happen, and that you think, everything's external. I got to fight my way and survive in this crazy world. And then the divine mind is just quiet. It's just waiting to be called upon, and it's just kind of like a passive observer until we really activate and become conscious or aware of this other part of our mind. But most people go through life and they're not even aware of the other mind. They think they're the ego, and they think that if I just get all the things I want in life, I'll be happy. And then the ego's never satisfied. It's always looking for more. It's never enough. You make a certain amount of money, then you want to make more money. You want to have a great relationship. You want to make it better. It's never. I want to go back to when the romance was there. Your body, we're aging, and we resist having an aging body. And so we have the ego mind that's never satisfied, always thinking that something's wrong, and everything is never enough. And a lot of people tell me that when they do personal development work, they're like, oh, I know what my issue is that I'm not enough. I don't feel like I'm enough. And it's really not personal to you. It's everyone feels that way. Everyone has an ego. None of us get out of here without an ego. And everyone has that feeling of dissatisfaction that the ego drives. And it's really, if you stay just in that small awareness that we grew up in, our life will be very limited and we'll be unhappy.
Yeah, it's that pebble in the shoe that even when you have everything, you're still uncomfortable. There's still something bugging you and missing. And
even in good times, you think, well, it can even get better. It can even get better. So how could this get better? And again, even if you feel like you have it all, there's always that feeling, I want to make it better. And
I mean, we can think of that mind, the ego mind, as our comfort zone, because it's what helped us survive. If you think of why does the ego work that way, is it an enemy?
The ego's the enemy.
Yeah, we've seen some books recently that talk about the ego as the enemy, and in a sense, it is. If you're taking the perspective of overcoming the ego or dominating it or whatever, right? But But if you look at the bigger pictures, like why would nature give us such a mind? Well, it's because in the beginning you need that mind to survive, to adapt to whatever life throws at you. It's a very adaptive mind. It's looking out for you, making sure your body's safe and you're protected and you have the proper defenses, the defense mechanisms of the ego. You know, they're famous now because we all know those defenses, right? We feel. We
have to rationalize our behavior. We project because we don't want to think bad things of ourselves, so we have to project it out there. We have to not trust. Don't open our hearts to people because they're going to hurt us.
Yes, all that good stuff we need. They're not disorders, as a lot of people talk about them too, or wounds. They're simply mechanisms to help us get to this point, midlife in a sense, or maturity, where now it's time to do something else. It's time to transform the psyche and go to that wisdom mind. And the wisdom mind is very different. Like you were talking about Blake earlier. He says when the doors of perception are cleansed, you will see everything as it truly is, infinite. I'm probably paraphrasing, but that's what he means, is that when you're able to go beyond just the senses, the ego mind, you will see things in a divine way, in a sense that they're infinite, meaning they're arising from something infinite, and they represent really infinity. But from the limited point of view, you only see it in relationship to your body, to your ego. Whereas when you use that wisdom mind, you're transcending that. You're not making it the enemy. You're not pushing it away.
You're not getting rid of it.
You're just saying there's more to me than the ego mind, than survival.
And the senses do play a trick on us because it really consumes everything in our awareness. It's everything that we experience is through our senses. Even the memory of us going to having access to a divine or wise mind would be experienced through our senses. We would feel it, we would sense it, we would have a memory, it would be in our brain, would replay that experience. If it only happened in a moment and we forgot about it, it would be as if it never existed. So there is this like mechanism of storage and senses that we live in the world, and we just forget that there's just another layer. That we're only seeing like the bottom layer, the basics. And what we want to do is not dull the senses, so we can reach like I think a lot of people do these like crazy drugs so they can change dull their senses in a way so they can access something supernatural. But there really isn't. You're really not really escaping anything, or really not going to that wisdom mind. So, what would you describe the wisdom mind as?
Yeah, that's a good question. In the Jungian model, it would be the collective unconscious. What do you call the collective unconscious? Meaning, it's an unfortunate term because it's not unconscious, meaning that it's not aware. It is the basis of awareness, actually. It is very much. He called it unconscious because we're not conscious of it most of the time. We're not aware of it. But it is the ground of awareness itself. And that wisdom mind pervades everything in the universe. It is the one element that everyone's looking for, physics, and everybody's looking for
that God code or God gene.
Yeah, the unified theory and all that. It's always been there, and it'll always be there. And as human beings, we have to we start with that tension between our ego and the divine mind.
So the limited and the unlimited are basically two sides of the same coin in a way. Like there's those aspects of ourselves. Because if we just have limitless, it would be very chaotic, and there'd be so much happening.
Yeah.
And then if we just have limited, there's very little happening. So integrated together, you can bring in like a structured experience of the divine in a physical form that's
right.
You can perceive and remember through the senses.
But it is a process, and the tension is real.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to sugarcoat it because we see that not everyone can do this. This facing of the unconscious, or what Jung called encountering the unconscious mind, because it is an encounter in a sense. It's going to challenge you to leave behind that false identity of your persona, your ego, and to really enter a new phase of being in your life. And that is challenging for us as human beings because, again, we're used to our comfort zone. And we're saying, I spend all this time and all this energy fitting in and adapting, and you want me to do what now? You want me to leave all that for what? Possibility, uncertainty, creativity, all that unknown, which is terrifying for the ego. It's going to fight back. It's going to resist.
Even if you think that what you want is so great, like a new relationship or a new career or a new job, a new place to live, a new experience, your ego does not like new. It likes the same familiar conditioned patterns. So you don't have to get rid of the ego, but you want to understand it first of all. So you understand like its mechanism. You're kind of familiar with it. You kind of and then how do you become familiar with it? You need something to see yourself outside of it to witness it. When you're in the ego, it's kind of like a fish in water. It doesn't realize it's in water. And so it's swimming and it's like, do you know you're in water? I am. Like most of us don't realize that all the things that we're experiencing in life is an ego delusion. It's not real. The assumptions and things we make about other people and about events, all from ego. So the first step really is to step back and say, well, what is my conditioning? What is my go-to? And then giving ourselves a choice to step outside of it. And that really is that you're not trying to heal the ego. The ego's fine. It did a great job. Actually, the things that it created that limit you are a sign of a healthy mind, because that's what the mind had to do. And one of the tools or one of the ways that you can access the wisdom mind is this beautiful thing that we have in our mind, which I didn't realize that we had until we started teaching this work and going deeper into it, that you introduced me to, is this idea of the divine intellect. That we do have in our mind, besides our ego, another part of our consciousness that we can easily access, that's basically like a direct line to the divine, like it's a pure channel instead of clouded. It's like this, like sometimes you get a really bad signal and then there's a really good signal. This is like a really good signal to the potential and limitlessness. And the divine intellect is really the higher intelligence within our personal mind that can see the ego in its action and not fall into it, not get caught up in it, not react to it. And the more we can access or make that part aware for us, the more we can live in that place, the more freedom we'll have in our life.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth pursuing, and whatever challenges that we have to face to get there, definitely worth it, because it does give us that transcendence experience that, people talk about always connecting to something bigger than yourself and all that. That's the real stuff. I mean, that's what connects you to something bigger than yourself. You are basically, you experience personally in a direct way the universe in its infinity, but in your
own personal
experience.
infinity.
Yeah. And that's a tremendous experience. That's what people have called for eons now the spiritual life, the true spirituality, not just religion in a sense of going through rituals or uttering certain phrases and over or anything like that, but a very personal experience that you have, a connection that you have with your own soul, your own divine intellect, like we said.
And so when you access this, there are some really great benefits. Like one you said is you get to control your life versus being led, like having your ego unconsciously choose for you based on the past. It'll just keep choosing the same result. If you look back at your life for the past year or 10 years, some people 20 years, how much has your income changed? What kind of relationships do you keep getting? It's not an accident. It's not bad luck that these things are happening to you. It's your conditioning. It's your ego is creating something. And it doesn't have this higher knowledge to say, maybe we've outgrown this. We don't need to do this anymore. It's just kind of like acting on autopilot until we go in and we basically change it. We become aware of it, and then we make another choice. But it's based on a choice we made a long time ago, forgot about it, and now it's running our life unconsciously. So what does it mean is if you can access this divine intellect and see yourself outside of the ego mind, take a step back, you're going to access the unlimited potential, this kind of force of wanting to grow, wanting to create, seeing possibility, doesn't see limits, sees things that aren't in the senses yet. This part of you, this imagination, can look at your bank account and say, oh, there's only, $3,000 in there. This divine intellect can impress the mind of seeing 30,000 or 40,000 or $1 million. That's where that comes from. It's not the ego mind that's like, oh, I need 30,000 because I'm scared. And if I had that 30,000, then I'll feel comfortable. And then I won't be worried about money anymore. That's the ego mind. The divine is going, it's already there. I'm creating it. So imagine the power of that. Imagine the power of going and dating and meeting people and saying, even if you had 10 bad dates, say, I know my partner's out there. I know I deserve it. I'm creating it. And regardless of what your senses are showing you, to hold the mind in that really pure intention.
Right, because we want to look at the implications of this. I mean, what does it mean for our everyday life? Obviously, we're not renouncing the world and running off into the forest to meditate and live there all our
We're
lives.
not. Oh.
Not this lifetime.
Not this week.
Not this week. We have to work in the world, and we have to do our jobs and take care of families and interact with the culture and the people. And we have to do that, though, while we do our personal transformation work. And through it, actually, if we understand what we're doing, through that challenge of daily interaction, of doing the worldly, mundane work, we can transcend our ego self, our limited mind, and experience that wisdom mind. That's the beauty of the work, is that we're not, we don't have to go anywhere. It's, on the contrary, it's actually just really realizing that here now is where the work is for us. That we are ready to experience our mind in a new way.
And I want to say too that it doesn't mean that everything just like a lot of people think, oh, everything's just going to run smoothly. I just have everything I want. I have like the Aladdin's lamp. I want this, I want that, and it just miraculously appears. It doesn't mean you're not going to have hard times, that you're not going to question things in your life. People are going to die and leave and have struggles, and there's going to be drama in your family. There's going to be drama in your business and drama in your body. We have all those things. It's not an escape from life, but it's going to give you a handle when those things happen, that it doesn't destroy you. It doesn't basically make you feel that you don't have any power. And so you're less anxious, even in those times. You're more in control, and you're not feeling like a victim. You're seeing really the world as it really is, and it is a duality of dark and light, of happiness and sadness, and failure and success, and we're not getting caught up in the ride. We're enjoying it, but not getting caught up in it. And it's such a very fine line between with that, because I think some people do the extreme of renouncing the world and thinking they have to like give up everything to be and go in a cave, or they have to be, everything has to be smooth. They have to just create this smooth life and have no hiccups. And then when they have hiccups, they're like, I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing something wrong. Yeah. So that's not what it is. The key here is when you are familiar with the divine intelligence, that wisdom mind, you are going to intuitively know what to do with a situation, how to handle it, how to see the gold in it, how to move through it, and how to grow from it versus freaking out. So those are the benefits, really. You get to get the things you want because you're getting outside the pattern, but you're also going to be able to cope with life as it comes and not feel as though you're fighting life. And you basically claiming your power. So how do we do this, Rob? How do we do this? Can we do this in 10 minutes?
The weekend.
Over the weekend?
Well, I think it starts by recognizing that we have been identified with this limited mind, and that we have been conditioned. There's nothing wrong with conditioning. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong or that something evil fell upon you. It simply means that you're a human being and you're alive. And every living thing is subject to conditioning. And all it means is that you're responding to the environment and trying to adapt. And that adaptation, that need to adapt, shapes your behavior and your mind. And again, there's nothing wrong with it, but if you stay there, that's as far as you go. You're simply going to repeat the patterns. And the patterns, they're not easy they're not that hard to see. If you simply look at
your life,
and look at what you have right now and what you've created, that expresses basically your conditioned mind. So what's on the other side? You know, what is that calling, that urge towards something else? Once you start to see that pattern and accept that that's not the totality of me.
Yeah, this isn't the life. This isn't the end of my life. This isn't the edge of what's possible.
Yeah. On the contrary, it is a new beginning, where Jung talks about facing the shadow, in a sense, facing the opposite of what you've been
running from.
Avoiding or saying that's not me. That begins a deeper process of becoming that, or experiencing the wisdom mind within you.
And, we don't have that much time to kind of go through a whole process here, the whole individuation process. But we do, but I do know that doing the shadow work and identifying, it gives you a handle on what the ego is. It kind of gives you something like what you're working with. So you know what's the ego and what isn't. And so that's really, the shadow work isn't to heal you. It's really to make you more conscious. So, I understand now that I'm afraid of what people think, so I'm not going to do that. And now that's why I never do that. And now you could say, well, do I want to experience something? And I know this is a conditioning. It's not really what I really want. I hear my mind telling me, you don't want it right now. Put it off. This is too scary. But that divine intellect starts to take over and saying, go for it. And so we've all had that moment of go for it. There has to be more. So I want you to listen to that voice. I want you to listen to, and it doesn't actually have a voice. The chatter in our mind is the ego, but the divine intellect it's sort of like a sense that you need to do more. That it's like, I don't even know if it's a feeling, but it's this awareness of, come on, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be more. I'm ready to break the pattern. I'm ready for something different. And sometimes it comes when we're really frustrated with the current reality, where we hit a wall in life and say, I can't take any more. And all of a sudden it forces us to see a possibility because we have so much coming at us. And other times that we can consciously go through it. But the shadow work really does give you that handle on the ego, understands what you're afraid of, and then the divine mind can come through.
Yeah. And the shadow work is that initiation into the bigger process, a bigger cycle of life. And that's what's exciting, is that people that do take time to really examine their lives a little bit and do some work, some personal development work, they do get that chance to go to a higher level in their mind. Well, it's beautiful to see, and it's beautiful to be part of that process for a lot of us to experience.
But we should give them something they can do to practical to do to get started. Like, I think looking at your patterns is a good look at your life. Just do an assessment of your life and what is in your life right now, in all areas: love, money, career, health, spirituality. Write down the current state, like a state of the union. And then I want you to, on the right, write down what you want, what you really want. If you could have the ideal that I'm getting these unavailable men, or I'm getting bad dates, or people cheating on me all the time, and I really want to have a faithful, connected partner. I'm lost in my spiritual journey. I don't know where. I really want to have that connection. I want to be successful in my business, but right now I'm struggling. And what it is now is your conditioning. The what on the right, things on the right, is the divine wanting more. And you have to be careful. Here's one quick little thing before we go, is that you can't want the things on the right, the things you want, because you're running away from something. That's ego. Like I said, wanting money so you're not worried about money, wanting a relationship so you're not alone, wanting health so you're not sick. You want, the divine intelligence wants to create just for creation's sake, not to compensate for a life that's not lived. But we do have the seed of it in there, the seed of growth, the seed of possibility. Because if not, you wouldn't be even listening to this podcast. You'd be just saying, this is just the way life is. I'm sure there's people in your life that think that, and they're an ego, and they just feel like life just carries them along. But you are very special because you are seeking answers, and in that, the divine intelligence is already activated within you. It just needs to come more in the forefront of your choices and decisions. So before we go, I wanted to mention that we are doing a spiritual retreat in lovely Santa Fe. The land of enchantment is the state of New Mexico, is all very enchanted place. Love the desert. We love doing our spiritual retreats because it's so different than our other events. Have time to really work with the mind in a deeper way. It's really for advanced students. So if you're really up for it and have done some of our work before and are ready to go deeper with the divine intelligence, access the wisdom mind, and start creating your life in a bolder, more beautiful way, we're going to take you through lots of meditation and practices to help you access that mind and bring some clarity and vision to what you want to create in your life. So it's going to be a great 3 days.
Yeah, I love Santa Fe.
And it's August 10th through 12th. And you can go to our website and go on the events page, and you can click on that. And I also want to invite you we have a new video series. Our video series called the Unlock Your Hidden Power. And it's a 3 spiritual principles of success. Really great series of a great video course. If you're interested, we are going to post that on our podcast link below. You can check it out, and it's absolutely free.
Awesome.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been a great show. Allow the divine intelligence to flow in your mind today. And remember to be nice to your ego. It's done a good job, but it's not in charge anymore.
Sounds good. See you next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.